All right, everybody, this is a demonstration about how to access databases so that you can accumulate sources for your projects. So you should be watching this as a part 2 to our scientific literacy and paper information lecture, which should be linked right above this. If you haven't seen that, please go and take a look at that because that informs what we're doing here. Finding those articles for our literature search, finding good peer-reviewed sources. Before I even delve into this, the reason that we search for articles in this way through databases is to find only peer-reviewed work. There's a bit of a misconception here. Something that exists on a news website, for example, say the New York Times, the Washington Post, though it might be credible in the way that you normally think of credibility, it's not the type of credibility we're looking for when we're writing a research paper. So we'll only be looking for articles through the means that I have listed here. This is specific to how VVC manages their databases. I've started out with just a few slides here about how to access and what types of databases we will be accessing, and then I'll move on to a demo of how to access those databases, okay? So the first one we'll talk about is called PsycInfo. It's a branch of EBSCO. If any of you are familiar with EBSCOhost, it's a great database that's specific to psychology, so this helps do a lot of the filtering that we already need to do for our projects. To access this database, you will have to go to the VVC website, and I'll show you how to do this, but you go to Academics tab, the Library tab, and look for academic databases, okay? Then we're going to look specifically in psychology and child development to find this database. It might have a slightly different name, PsycArticles, PsycInfo. As long as it's EBSCO, and it should indicate that on the link, you're good to go. There are a few different names for this service floating around. The other key here is that you want to be logged on through VVC's website. If you're already logged in to, say, Canvas or other VVC systems, when you go over to these databases, that should consider you logged in and give you access to nearly everything there. If not, contact the help desk, okay? I can't help you with that. You're going to have to contact the help desk. So something else great about this particular service is it has a citation tool. We spent much of our last lecture talking about how to cite, but thankfully we do have automated services that can mostly do this for us. I'll hang on the word mostly because it's not always perfect, okay? Another service that we'll be using, and one of my favorites, is Google Scholar. Google Scholar is a relatively newer scientific database, but it's vast. Okay, it often combines sources from many other databases, which makes it powerful. However, you have to sift a little bit more through Google Scholar. You won't have access to everything here in the same way you will if you use an EBSCO-based database, because journals charge for their articles, and Google Scholar doesn't give you that sort of access. So EBSCO is better. But yeah, you can use that, okay? So you can filter by author name, by the year of publication, and I'll show you how to use those tools. You also, if you log into your VVC account, stay logged in when you use Google Scholar because sometimes you will have access to more papers than you otherwise would be, okay? Here's a warning about citation tools, okay? Citation tools are awesome. They're great. They're going to save you a lot of time, but they're not perfect. You know, you can use ChatGPT to do this, but you need to check the quality of the citations, double check its work, make sure that it's doing things right. Don't solely depend on these tools to format things for you properly. Okay, so I'm going to hop over to the VVC webpage. Per our instructions here, we want to go to vvc.edu, okay? Then the academics tab, and make sure that you are signed in if you need to go to My VVC and sign in, okay? Do that first, and then go to academics, close that, academics, and then library, and then article database, okay? And here you'll see it should be first EBSCOhost. Okay, so you can search here. This will search all of our different databases, and there are multiple. Okay. So yeah, you can search here. Okay, and it will search everything for you. But there are a lot of databases here that you don't need to use. Okay. Yeah, so there's a bunch of different names for things that are in EBSCOhost, okay? But you just go to EBSCOhost first, okay? So we want to go to the database where it says Academic Search Complete, okay? So it has everything there. So you can go ahead and click on that. If it doesn't log you in, then it's probably because you're not logged in. But again, if you're logged in and still having issues, contact the help desk because that's a technical issue, okay? So this is going to show us databases that are specific to our field, okay? You can also ask the librarian for help, by the way. That's another good way to do it. So you can call the help desk instead of going in. So if we go ahead and look at these here, that's what we want. Okay, the complete one. So some of you might be familiar with EBSCO. It's a very widely used database system and it's relatively user-friendly, has lots and lots and lots of options that are maybe a little bit less user-friendly. So we'll try to get more familiar with this as we go. So there is a search bar here. You can type in keywords, okay? You'll likely want to type in the variables that you're interested in studying. Then there are many, many more things that we can limit here. So notice that full text is selected, or full text should be selected, okay? Full text means that the entire paper is available to you, and that's what you are going to want to gather in terms of your sources for our project. Now, if you were publishing a legitimate, real scientific paper, then you wouldn't want to only pick full text. You want to get all of the papers that are out there. Even EBSCOhost is not going to offer the full text for all journals. Sometimes you have to contact that journal and pay for or request through a library to get a copy of that article. And if you are a responsible scientist, then you will go the extra length and not just ask for the full text ones. Ones that aren't full text usually only include the abstract, okay? But we're going to make it easy for you. Just click full text for now, okay? But that is the lazy cheat way of doing it, so to speak. All right, so you can take a look at these specific toggles here, but what I'll say is start by just doing a general search. Maybe you're interested in social media and anxiety and their relationship. You could start with just that, social media and anxiety. Okay, so you just type in social media and anxiety, okay? And then just search. So it'll start to show you some papers. So psychological well-being during pregnancy, contribution of stress, factors in maternal fetal bonding. So maybe that's not quite as useful. Social media use, digital stress and anxiety and depression symptoms in youth. Okay, that's a great one. An experimental online study on the impact of negative social media comments on anxiety and mood. That could be another great one. It kind of depends on what the nuances of your paper are, okay? So we can start here by just taking a look. I'll go ahead and click into one of these and show us a couple things here. So if you click into a title, remember we talked about how important a title is in a research report. If the title draws you in, you can click in here and you can see a couple of different things. So you should be able to see an abstract. Okay, not all. Okay, there you go. Abstract. All right. This is a great way to scan and see if this is something that you want to use. So remember, an abstract is meant to determine for the reader if they want to read further. So use the abstracts for that. Take a look, see what you think. Okay. By the way, we never quote the abstract. We never cite from the abstract. You need to actually read the paper. Don't use the abstract. That is considered very bad cheating. Okay. If we scroll down, the whole paper should be here. Yes, okay, there we go. There we go, because it's full text, okay? So it will be in there. If it's not full text, that means that they don't have the whole paper there. So there's lots and lots of details on the study that was completed there. If it doesn't mean you need to read every bit of this paper, but you should get an idea of what it's about, take notes for your literature search. So when you go to write your paper later, you know what was done in that particular paper. Okay. So let me show you a couple things here. There are a lot of different options. You should be able to download this. Yep. Okay, you can download it as a PDF. Okay, don't download it as HTML. That's just annoying. So you can download the PDF, and you should keep it for your records if you think this is something you might use. You could put it straight into your Google Drive. There should be a feature to do that. Maybe not. Nope, I guess not. Okay. I thought I'd seen that before where you can put it straight into your Google Drive. Maybe that's only offered on some things. Okay, but you can put your PDF straight into it, which is a great way of staying organized, right? You can also click on the different author names and it'll show you different works by the authors. Oh, why is everything just not cooperating with what I'm trying to show you? Okay, here we go. So this has a, whatchamacallit, a link, right? So you can click, if what this paper is like perfect for what you need, then maybe see if the authors have any other papers that are on something similar, okay? And this one does not. Let's see if there's the other one. Okay, so he's also he or she, Adrian, probably a boy, guy, addicted to socializing and still lonely. Analysis problematic social networking site use. Okay, so he's written a bunch. Boredom and social networking, sadness. All right, so that could be something that is useful for you as you research and find your papers. The next thing I want to show you is the automatic citation tool. Just looking for that Google share thing. I swear it's in there somewhere. So, hopefully you caught that right. I just clicked on the cite button, these quotation marks, okay? And what it has done is it's given me some generated citations here. We're of course using APA, so you find APA, right? That's what it's on automatically on mine, but there's a bunch of different options, okay? We're using APA 7th edition, okay? And you can copy and paste this reference onto your paper, but again, just be warned that while most of the formatting here is done, you might need to tweak a few things to get it just right, okay? And just double check things. So this is our EBSCOhost at a glance. We'll be doing much more work with this as we go, but I also want to show you Google Scholar. Okay. So let's just go ahead and search for the same thing, social media anxiety, and let's see what we get. Okay. So we have a long list of studies here. We have a citation tool here as well. Right there, cite, okay. All right, so there you go. So APA format right there. And as always, just double check that it's correct for, what you are doing. Double check that it's correct for APA 7th edition, okay? It usually is. They do a good job, but okay. Okay, so you can adjust the time. Okay, so remember that we start broad and we start with recent with our literature view. So maybe you want to get the most current literature. So maybe we say since 2021, or you can do a custom range. Maybe you want it since from the beginning of the pandemic, right? So you want to make sure you get all the pandemic research. Okay, so you're going to get everything from that year range, or maybe you want it from before the pandemic, okay, for whatever reason. So you might do, I don't know, 2000 to 2018, okay, and make sure that it's pre-pandemic, so because you don't want any of the statistics to be, I don't know, affected by the outlier of the pandemic. Okay, maybe you want that. Remember, though, not everything will be available to you here through Google Scholar, but I'll tell you what is available for full view, or what's available as, it will tell you, not I will tell you, what is available for full view, okay, or for PDF. So you can always, of course, click into these and take a look. Yeah, so if there is a link here, then those are full text. If there's no link, like this one doesn't have a link, then that means that it should just be the abstract. Okay, yeah. Oh, no, this one does have the whole... no, that does not look like an entire... Yeah, these are just section snippets. Okay. Yeah, it wants you to purchase it or possibly access it through your organization, which means EBSCO. All right. So this one is nice because it gives you more than the abstract. It gives you section snippets, which is unusual. So that gives you a little bit more of an idea. But remember, when you are picking articles, okay, when you're picking through articles, really, you want to read the abstract first to see if you have any interest in this article whatsoever. Don't waste your time reading the whole thing. Just read the abstract. If it looks interesting, then usually what researchers will do is read the discussion section next, because that's really the meat of what was the point of this paper. And then you read the introduction section afterwards. Okay, so you'll read, this is conclusion, discussion is the same thing. Okay, so you'll read that section to see what was the purpose of this article. And then if it's still interesting, then you'll read the introduction section. Because the introduction section is like, this is all the research we found about our topic, whereas the discussion is, this is what our research found. Okay, so discussion is more important than the introduction when you are trying to figure out, is this a useful paper or not? Okay, so abstract, then discussion, then introduction. Okay, never start with like the results section or whatever. First of all, it'll just confuse you, and second, it doesn't really tell you if it's worth your time. Okay. Yeah, so just spend some time poking around these different systems. You know, these are the two that I highly recommend. There's more. There's PubMed. Let me just open that up real quick. PubMed.gov. This is a fantastic database that was put together by the government. This is not the government's research. This was just a database of journals that have articles, and the government has put them all together. However, this is not just psychological. It's really more biological than anything. But you can still find a lot of stuff. You can find a lot of psychology research on it. And this is the #1 database that is available, okay, that aggregates journal articles. There's Science Direct, which I think is available through our library. And others you might be familiar with if you've done research before. Feel free to use any of them, but just make sure that it is peer-reviewed, okay? It needs to be a peer-reviewed journal article. Remember that things like news sources, blogs, they're not scientific sources. So books aren't really scientific sources because they're not peer-reviewed. You can occasionally use them if it's valuable to the paper, but otherwise avoid that. So we're going to try and stick to these trusted databases here, okay? EBSCO, Google Scholar, PubMed, Science Direct. You really shouldn't be using any other ones. If you think you've got a good one, but you're not sure, then just message me and let me know, okay? All right, good luck.